Evening and welcome to Overtime. Retribution is the word of the day as a flurry of events going on right now. We'll start with freshly breaking, literally as we were in intro. Republican Speaker of the House Johnson has warned the federal judiciary, he has threatened them essentially to stop messing with Trump's agenda or he will cut their funding. Extraordinary and unprecedented situation. We have a very brief clip from ABC covering this. This literally just coming out. We'll be following this on the Discord. Probably. We had a couple of big things we were going to cover today, and we've literally just in the time it took from the intro to start to get here have just blown all of that out of the water. So let's bring up ABC. And let's take a listen.
Mike Johnson also issuing an open threat to the federal judiciary today. Johnson saying that Congress has the authority to pull funding to federal courts. The congressman also adding that he is open to the idea here of potentially impeaching judges who rule against the president, saying that, quote, everything is on the table. Well, this.
All right, so that from ABC News saying that Speaker Johnson is A, willing to pull funding to federal courts that are not complying with the executive branch's edicts and or impeaching judges that cause delays in Trump's agenda. Ostensibly, right now, we can think of several judges that are doing that. The first is the judge that issued the temporary restraining order against the SSA in barring Doge from entering. We will be covering that in a few minutes. The second and larger one is the judge that has barred Trump from issuing any more deportations. Now, Trump has shown nothing but contempt for judges and a willingness to violate all of their orders, and we'll get to the ones that he has violated and how he's violated them in the last however long since we've last been on air. But he clearly is also willing to go on the attack instead of just ignoring them outright, getting Speaker of the House Johnson, who we've been curious as to just how much he's in Donald Trump's pocket, that being relevant for Article 2, Section 3, which would allow Donald Trump to adjourn Congress indefinitely, as long as he chooses, so long as Johnson assists him in doing that. He threatened that in his first term. We believe that is, in fact, on his agenda at this point, to at some point suspend Congress. That is Article 2, Section 3. We've discussed that before. I will not probably get into it again right now. We do have a show in time tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's in about 2 hours from now. I hope you'll join us for that, as Andrew and I will cover all of this in more detail. Nonetheless, literally just breaking, Speaker Mike Johnson has threatened the federal courts that Congress has the power to stop funding and has the ability to impeach judges who are not cooperating with Donald Trump. So that said, welcome to Overtime. What did we have on the agenda? Donald Trump has issued three actually, let's start with, instead of the executive orders, let's start with the Signal debacle. We have some footage of it. It's kind of hilarious. It's kind of cringe of, in particular, Tulsi Gabbard, but several members of Trump's cabinet being humiliated in Congress. We haven't been covering it live because, as much as I'd like to, it's not as newsworthy as one might think. It looks newsworthy. It sounds newsworthy. The reality is Trump has already said that he does not believe any of this comes up to a offense for which someone can be fired. Now, that was not 𝐒𝐚𝐬's point of view when the tables were turned and there were various leaks in either Biden's administration or in regards to Hillary Clinton's emails or anything like that. There does appear to be a double standard. Having said that, that's something we will be discussing later on tonight. The reality is Tulsi Gabbard is supposed to be the chief intelligence officer of this country, and she had no idea that somebody had invited a journalist into a room to discuss a classified attack in Yemen. Now, she dodged very inartfully. Everyone else seemed to have a little more experience testifying before Congress. She kept trying to circle the square. She could not discuss elements of it because they were classified, but assured people that there was no classified material in that signal discussion that could have leaked out. But she couldn't discuss what couldn't have leaked because it was classified. You can't make this up. So we're going to have, as I said, footage of some of the funnier moments tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope you guys will join us for that. But again, while it's interesting to watch, and it's clearly a debacle, it's not going to change anything, and we've got bigger fish to fry. This is an example of where we've been talking about, the magician who deftly gets your attention over here while he's pulling the trick over here. Not that Trump is deliberately distracting people with this debacle, but I'm sure he loves it because nobody's paying attention to the significant executive orders he has passed today because everybody's watching Tulsi Gabbard squirm while she's spouting utter horse shit. And as of yet, nobody's paying attention to this ABC business, which is since Trump started, the Speaker of the House issuing a threat, and it's absolutely a threat. Let me play that again, because that's just, it is that bad. He is threatening federal judges. We have to bring, this is worth hearing twice. I'm sorry, this is insane. Listen very carefully to what the Speaker of the House is saying.
Let's start here with House Speaker Mike Johnson also issuing an open threat to the federal judiciary today. Johnson saying that Congress has the authority to pull funding to federal courts. The congressman also adding that he is open to the idea here of potentially impeaching judges who rule against the president, saying that, quote, everything is on the table. Well, this comes as the White House faces high-stakes legal battles over the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members and an executive order banning transgender service members.
All right, so that's just stunning. Now, we believe that he was actually asked to go a great deal further, and that he was asked to name specific judges that he was intending to go after. He was asked to name specific measures that he would take. Instead, he just said everything's on the table, but we'd like to remind the federal judiciary that we fund them. We have the power to remove that funding at will, and we also have the power of impeachment. That reminder is a threat. It's the definition of a threat. So the Speaker of the House threatening the entire federal judiciary if they don't start ignoring more laws and doing what King Trump tells them to do. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has issued 3 executive orders we'd like to talk about. The first one is another, again, the word of the day, retribution. Protecting America. No, that's the one where he's trying to take over. Yeah. Okay. Addressing the risks from Jenner and Block. He has added a 4th law firm, a large law firm, to his list of law firms that cannot have any government contracts going forward and who are to have their all of their classified credentials pulled. Why? Well, this is because the law firm itself actually didn't do anything. Jennifer and Block has had, to the best of my understanding, no encounters with Trump. However, they did hire one of the former, and let me see if I can, they hired Andrew Weissman who was a top federal prosecutor involved in Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation detailing Trump's Russian contacts with for his presidential campaign in 2016. So they hired someone who had worked with Mueller, and for that, they are now having their security credentials pulled and all government contracts cut. Now, you'll remember previously we had discussed this. He had done this to 3 previous law firms. One law firm capitulated. The other 2 have been fighting it. There is a TRO in place on the first one. We expected the second one to get a TRO in place by yesterday. We haven't heard yet if that's happened. And then he issued another executive order, basically passing all of this on to the Attorney General and to the Secretary of Homeland Defense, which is really scary, saying that they are empowered in order to clean up fraud, to go after any company, any law firm that is engaging in wasteful spending by making the United States government defend itself against frivolous lawsuits. He named a number of lawsuits that would be examples of what they should be going after. Every single example was somebody suing him. So he is making it crystal clear the only fraud that there is in none of these has he gone after anybody who has done anything but try to enforce the law against him. The only fraud he is trying to clear up is people who are bugging him. He was very cute about it, and he knew. He's not that stupid. He knew. Everybody knew exactly what he meant. That was kind of the point too, where he said an example of people that the Justice Department should go after would be in 2016. Hillary Clinton's opponent had a dossier released against him, and anybody associated with that dossier should be investigated. Any lawyers associated with that dossier, including Hillary Clinton, who is a lawyer, should have all their credentials pulled, and so on and so forth. Gee, who was she running against in 2016? So he has now directly attacked another law firm, and this is despite the fact he has actually asked the DOJ and Department of Homeland Security to do these attacks for him. He is still issuing executive orders attacking individual companies, individual firms. In this case, it's Jenner and Block. The second executive order that he has issued today, called the Protecting America's Bank Account. Actually, let me, there is so much. Protecting America's Bank Account Against Fraud, Waste, and Abuse. It reminds me of the Bush administration when the Clean Air Act was about burning down as many forests as possible. So whatever it says, assume it's the opposite. This is an interesting one. Basically, what he's doing here is he is codifying what he has already been having Doge doing. So previously, he had instructed that Doge could do whatever they wanted to clean up, and they could cancel payments, so on and so forth. But he had not made any specific orders at Treasury regarding Doge. This does not mention Doge that I've seen, but clearly refers to what Doge is doing, and clearly refers to Doge as a third-party oversight that we'll get into in a minute. But what he's basically saying is that there's way too much fraud over at Treasury, and it is the policy of the United States to defend against financial fraud and improper payments, increase transparency and accountability around the federal government's operations and financial condition. None of this is in his purview. This is exactly what Congress is supposed to be doing, which is why the fact that Johnson is so much in his pocket at this point is terrifying. So he is, let's see if I can find the actual, he is saying that the Secretary of the Treasury, in consultation with the Director of the Office Management and Budget, 𝐒𝐸, shall update and enhance their systems to ensure that all payments made on behalf of agencies pursuant to the Secretary of the Treasury's distributing authority are subject to pre-certification verification. What that means is that he is going to apply a criteria to ensure that these payments should go out, and that all payments going forward need to meet this criteria before they can go out. Some of the criteria, the ones that he starts with, are actually rather reasonable. For example, such guidelines set forth will have to comply with the do not pay working system, which is if they've previously been put on the system that says don't pay these people, then don't pay these people. Okay, that's a reasonable pre-certification. However, he also says that the heads of all agencies shall cooperate with the Secretary of the Treasury to fulfill their obligations to determine payment or award eligibility through pre-certification or pre-award procedures, such as determined by the Secretary of the Treasury, including pursuant to the subsection, on fraud. Let's see. That's going to be coming next. So, okay. So the Secretary of the Treasury seems to, according to Section 3, subsection C, is going to have broad authority to determine what constitutes a valid payment and what does not. He's not supposed to have that authority. His job is to send out the payments. We've discussed this before. This is already the laws that DOGE is violating, and what Trump appears to be attempting to do here is to codify that into whoever he appoints as the Secretary of the Treasury. Whoever has that job gets to determine what is a valid and what is a non-valid payment. Let's see. Within 90 days of this order, the agency heads shall review and modify as applicable the relevant systems of records notices under the Privacy Act to include routine use that allows for disclosure of records to the Department of Treasury for the purposes of identifying, preventing, recouping fraud or improper payments. So what he's doing here is he's saying basically every agency that receives funds, so I assume that's every agency in the U.S. government, shall reorganize such that under the Privacy Act, you are allowed to reveal information that's part of routine use for your agency. They are to update their records to say that anything that is needed by the Department of the Treasury to identify whether or not something is fraud or a legit payment is now going to be routine use. This means that the Treasury, if I read this correctly, will have unprecedented ability to access information from just about any agency, because all they have to do is say, we believe this information is relevant, you need to give it to us, you are cleared to give it to us because you're cleared to just mark it as routine use and give it to us, and if you don't, we're not going to pay you anything. Moving forward, yes, the Treasury Secretary will, they'll hand over the information. Implementation and compliance of payment. Agency heads through designated agency officials who are responsible for verifying that the distributions are proper. The Treasury Secretary shall consider as appropriate issuing instructions to agencies to enforce the following pre-certification criteria for disbursement of requests as submitted by enforcement officers. Standby one. So, and I just closed that window. That was a silly thing to do. Let's see, bring that back up. All right. Let's see. Most of this is actually boilerplate stuff you'd expect. Payees are not deceased. They have a proper social security number, so on and so forth. Let's see. Da, da, da. I'm sorry. It's a long document. The Treasury Secretary, there's subsection guidance, transparent for proper agencies. Core financial systems consolidation. Within 180 days of this order, they shall direct to consolidate core financial systems. The OMB shall issue guidance to, as soon as possible, all heads of CFO comply with essentially what he's doing. And I'm trying to find the exact verbiage of it and where he's doing it. He says that the Treasury is empowered because this creates so much paperwork, and the Treasury has to now interact with so many other agencies to confirm. None of this was needed or done before. There is fraud and there is waste, and there are ways to do. If you cut the military budget, which is already higher than the next 10 countries combined, if you cut the military budget by 20%, you'll have done far more than any of this will ever do, and you'll have done so without cutting off Social Security benefits or anything like that. Anyways, he instructs the Treasury to delegate distributing authority to NTDOs. These are Treasury non-Treasury distributing officers. So these are people who don't work at Treasury, maybe at a fictitious organization, I don't know, Gilbert, Doge, who will have the power to make these decisions absent the Secretary of Treasury themselves. The Secretary shall develop a plan to manage payments through these NTDOs, ensuring the continuity of government payments. The Secretary of the Treasury, in coordination with agency heads, shall establish a transition plans for agencies currently operating as NTDOs, including staff adjustments, system integrations, and legal or regulatory modifications necessary for full consolidation. Again, this is going to give the Treasury Department a great deal more power over other U.S. agencies. Now, there's a reason this has been avoided until now. This, on some level, as a business, this makes sense, except that you don't have, while business decisions obviously have to be restricted by whether or not you can afford them, you don't have the guy who's holding the purse strings making business decisions as a business. He determines what you can and can't do, but or what you have the ability to do, but whether or not you choose to do a certain thing is still entirely up to you if you're running your business. This changes that. This empowers them to set arbitrary guides for what will and will not be paid for, and to enforce those guides, which is essentially what Doge has been doing. But now, instead of it being at the Doge level, this executive order moves all of Doge's actions essentially to the Treasury and gives the Treasury all of the power of Doge and the ability to assign that power to third parties like Doge. Again, caveat, this was released a short while ago. It's rather arcane language. This is the best of my understanding of it. So we're going to keep an eye on it as it progresses tonight. And dear Lord, we're going to be at 8 p.m. by the time I'm done with all of this. And we're going to have to do a rundown covering everything, because the Speaker Johnson thing, I'm going to play at least one more time. That's just insane. Implementation requirements, general provisions, that's all going to be boilerplate. All right. So we've covered 2 of the 3 executive orders he's issued today. The first was an attack on a law firm that had hired a former member of the Mueller report. Why go after them just for hiring the guy? Well, so that nobody will ever hire anybody who has ever worked in any legal capacity against Trump. This is a bullying and intimidation tactic to make it so that if you file any legal paperwork against the administration or Trump himself, he will destroy your career. That is the purpose of that executive order. It's shocking, especially when it comes on top of the fact that he's already empowered, again, the Department of Justice to do that and instructed them to do this. Wow. So that was the first one. The second one was essentially giving all of the power that he had given to Doge and giving it to the Treasury. So he is, in essence, sidestepping Doge. I take this to mean a couple of different things. We have said from the beginning. So Trump, yes, anyone he doesn't like, he throws under the bus. Having said that, Elon Musk has one job in this White House. One job, and that is to be thrown under the bus. That's why he was hired. He was not hired to do any of this Doge stuff. He was not hired to... He is the fall guy. They are making him do all the stuff that's going to get people pissed off. And Social Security is already starting to show some significant cracks. They are at about half staff in terms of they have half the number of people they need to operate it. Calls are being answered by managers because there aren't secretaries to answer it. The website's been down, I think, 10 times in April alone. They're having technical issues, and this is the beginning. Looks like SSA is starting to collapse. When everything goes to hell, Trump is going to blame Musk, with whom he's already starting to have a falling out. He fires Musk and then says, okay, we've gotten rid of all the problem, but by that point, he will already have transferred all of Musk's responsibilities and everything that Musk has taken the hit for doing that he should never have done in the first place, none of which should be legal, and already transferred it to another organization, in this case Treasury, which is where he wanted it from the very beginning. Is Trump that smart? Not on your life. The Heritage Foundation, who wrote Project 2025, is. Musk has one job: to do all the dirty work and get caught doing it. He ain't quite done yet, but he's getting there. And the fact that all of Musk's powers, he still has them. And he's still going to be he's still going to use them until it's no longer tenable. But all of his powers have now been replicated at Treasury. They don't need him anymore. He's the lightning rod. That's simple. So Musk will be gone reasonably soon. Having said that, the FBI have issued a warning to all owners of Tesla vehicles. They have said that there is a nationwide, let me see if I can find the actual thing from the, I can't, it's going to take me a second. So the FBI has issued, you know what, it's on the Discord, so rather than trying to go through, okay, there's the B-2 bombers that we're sending into combat for some reason. We don't know. We'll get to that. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can find it because it's worth it. Here it is. So, public service announcement: FBI individuals target Tesla vehicles and dealerships nationwide with arson, gunfire, and vandalism. FBI is informing the public of recent nationwide incidents targeting Tesla electric vehicles, dealership storage lots, and so on and so forth. Arson, gunfire, vandalism, graffiti, the whole 9 yards. The FBI urges the public to exercise vigilance and to look out for suspicious activity. Okay. Two very important things. One, I'm not these assholes. I'm not Trump. I am not any of his cronies, and I am not Elon Musk. I am not going to resort to doing shit like this. I'm glad people are pissed, but this is insane. And by the way, you don't know who you're taking it out on. Those dealerships, are they privately owned or are they owned by Musk? If they're privately owned, you're targeting someone who had no idea who Musk was when he opened up a dealership. He may have kids that he's got to feed. He's got a family he's got to feed. And he has got no idea. And maybe right now is trying to get out of the Musk business for a whole bunch of good reasons. But he had no idea this was coming. When you destroy a Tesla, is it the only car for single-parent family trying to you don't know. You have no idea who you're targeting. You're just pissed at Musk, and this is the closest target to it. We should all be pissed at Musk. Hurting individuals who maybe bought their cars long before. I mean, how long has Musk been in office? And how long has Tesla been selling vehicles? And by the way, I'm pissed because this kind of thing pisses me off, not because my suspicion is most of our audience feels the exact same way. So I'm preaching to the choir. Apologies for, it takes 10 seconds of thinking to realize the chances are 99 to 1 that you're hurting an innocent person, and that the effect that you're going to have and that of everybody doing this is going to have on Musk is negligible, especially since his days are already numbered as far as Trump is concerned. People like this usually get their comeuppance without vigilantes having to do it, even when the law won't. Usually. Not all the time. I'm aware of that. And again, I'm not God. I don't get to choose who gets comeuppance and who doesn't. If I did, the world would be a different place. All right. I think we got a super chat. I will check on those. A lot to cover. So, the FBI, and then the third executive order is an interesting one, protecting the integrity of American elections. Now, I've seen a lot of blowback to this one, and having read it, for the most part, I can't understand why. What's most shocking about this one is I can't find anything, well, I can find one thing really wrong with it, but I can't find anything overtly wrong with it. It's got some things I don't like. It's got some, it's got some Republican boilerplate. This is how we do things, but it's not authoritarian, which concerns me because in the cases like this, it makes me feel like I must have missed something. We'll go over it briefly. There was one thing that is authoritarian in here, and we'll get to that. That was extremely concerning at the bottom. Everything else, I thought he was going to say basically you have to prove. Well, okay. What does he say? He says you are going to have to prove that you're an American to vote. This is a problem since 9% of all Americans do not have an ID that would qualify by the standards that he set here. 9% of people who were born in the United States, who are American citizens, do not have an ID that would fall under what he lists as an ID here that is required. He says that he wants to enforce citizenship requirement for federal elections. Okay, fine. You need either a passport, a real ID, something like that. Keep in mind, there are plenty of people who live in places you don't need a car, you don't need they didn't get a passport. How many friggin' George W. Bush, or actually it was George H.W. Bush. By the time he became president, had never left the country. I don't know if he had a passport or not, but if he got one, it was I don't think he knew where it was. He didn't even get to Canada, for crying out loud. So he basically says that going forward, all electronic voting needs to issue a paper receipt. I think that's fair. I agree with that. That for any number of obvious reasons. He says that they need to be checked for their internet connections and for security. Also not a bad idea. He demands that the Commissioner of Social Security take appropriate measures to work with all states and any available federal databases to make sure that the people are, in fact, eligible to vote. Listen, if voter fraud were a huge problem in the U.S., I might be more okay with that. The problem is, voter fraud is not a huge problem in the U.S. It does happen, but it's easy to catch. Everybody, it's like every time I go to vote, they ask me for my name. I say who I am. They find me right there. Boom, check it off. They don't even ask for an ID. Why? Well, because if someone else comes in claiming to be me, there's going to be a problem. And the penalties for voter fraud, unless your name is Trump, usually a minimum 2 years in prison. They make the penalties so high that for the most part, people don't bother trying. Voter fraud has represented less than, I think it was 0.003% of all ballots ever cast in the United States have had fraud. That's not enough to turn any election, even Bush v. Gore. So we know what this is about. You are much less likely to be able to get your identification and to be able to pay for it and keep it if you're poor. And the poor have a tendency to vote in one direction. Every study of these kinds of laws indicate that they disproportionately affect Democrats, because it's the Democrats who usually represent the interests of minorities and those who would otherwise have difficulty obtaining such an ID. All right. You know what? So what? This is all still for a president who's threatening to destroy the other branches of government. This is what I would expect from George W. Bush. I mean, this is nothing huge. Till he gets to the end. Let's see. Preventing. All right. Section 8. Been pretty good so far. Section 8. Preventing foreign interference and unlawful use of federal funds. The Attorney General, in consultation with the Secretary of the Treasury, shall prioritize the enforcement of 52 U.S.C. 3121 and other appropriate laws to prevent foreign nationals from contributing or donating to the United States elections. They shall likewise prioritize law enforcement, which prohibit lobbying of such organizations. That was not the one I was looking for, and is not a bad idea. That's the one Trump was trying to violate in Trump Tower, for crying out loud, but okay. However, that was still not what I was looking for. Compliance with the nope, not that one. So hidden somewhere in here is that to protect. Let's see, to protect. Okay, that's the prosecution there. Oh, I think I may have it. This is it. Sorry, it was section 4. Dead center. Improving the Election Assistance Commission. The Election Assistance Commission shall, pursuant to various laws, take appropriate action to cease providing federal funds to states that do not comply with the federal laws set forth, including the various such requirements. He's ending a mail-in voter. He's making mail-in votes a lot harder to do. They also have to not be postmarked by the election. They have to arrive by election day. And he says the election commissioner shall take whatever steps is necessary, including with the help of the Department of Justice. The Attorney General shall take appropriate action with respects to states that fail to comply. Sorry, it's Commissioner shall take appropriate action. Okay, so all of the information from all state databases regarding Social Security number verification, death master file, and any other federal databases containing relevant information to all state and local elections officials engaged in verifying the eligibility of individuals registering to vote or who have already registered. In determining such action, Commissioner of Social Security shall, all right, I'm not going to be able to read it to you because this is a long one and I've been unable to find it. Essentially, what it says here is that the Justice Department can withdraw any funding for anything for any states who do not comply with his new requirements. Now, this is going to absolutely be challenged. There's a number of legal challenges to this, but the I want to see if I can find the number of billions of dollars. I think it's $3 billion that the Justice Department provides in specific aid to states for law enforcement. And he is empowering them to pull that aid if they do not comply with this particular executive order in regards to elections. So you're either going to do the elections the way he says, and my suspicion is this is going to get amended further, or you lose all your federal funding and any assistance from the FBI, any assistance from any federal agencies that are tied to the Department of Justice. Not going to help you anymore. You are on your own as a state. Now, again, I didn't see in this bill, other than that threat, anything I would not have expected in a standard Republican bill. It's one of the few bills I've come across that was reasonably clean. That jumped out at me and is very much in keeping with what he's done. Now, the states get to choose the manner of their elections, period, end of discussion. He actually recommended some decent measures, including that regardless of the financial abilities of any given district, all districts in the state receive equal ballot designs, so that they don't because there have been issues of some districts receiving ballot designs that are more confusing than others. He's issued standardization, a whole bunch of things that are not bad ideas, and a bunch that are. But the threat, do it my way, or the Justice Department is empowered to cut all the funding that they give you. He's expanding his power yet again. The last little bit of news that we have, and it's just to keep an eye on, we've got this on the Discord. What we have now is, I think, 4 B-2 bombers that have arrived. See. In Diego Garcia, it's a military base, if I recall, reasonably south of the Middle East, but it's within striking distance of the Middle East. So normally they don't move B-2 bombers across the world without a reason, and moving 4 of them to the same base in striking distance of the Middle East is a decent indicator that something's going on. We've not been able to reach Commander McMillan. We don't expect being able to reach him for another few days still, but obviously I don't want to opine much without hearing from him. We will be keeping people updated on our Discord, and if and when he checks the Discord, we've got a couple of questions for him, and we'll be letting him know. So having said all of that, quick rundown before I check the live chat. Let's see. So we started out with the biggest, Speaker Johnson, which we will play one more time, threatening the judiciary if they continue to stand up to Donald Trump, threatening both to withdraw funding from the federal judiciary and to impeach federal judges if they continue to block Trump and his agenda. That's one of the most staggering things I've heard since this administration started, and that's a statement. Trump issued 3 executive orders, one targeting a law firm that hired someone who was in the Mueller team, another giving Treasury all of the power that he has vested in Doge. Doge still keeps it. He hasn't transferred the power. He's just copied it over. And another one which basically sets forward a reasonably Republican boilerplate. This is how we're going to change elections, but threatens states that fail to comply with loss of any support from the Department of Justice, which would include, again, the FBI, ATF, agencies like that. So, and we've got the planes, which we just talked about. So let me go check out and see what's been going on while I've been yammering. Let me, did it connect to a different one or where? Yeah. All right, there we go. There's always something. So, UTV and Ham gifted one in-time membership. Once again, thank you, sir. It's always a delight to have your support. We really do appreciate it, and they add up. So thank you for that. Holy Spackle brings up an excellent point, and I had forgotten about this. So thank you for bringing this up. Yeah, that is correct, and that was mentioned in a Washington Post article. I think you can find that article in our Discord, but that is correct. Married women are going to have a significantly harder time, and then if you get divorced, also possibly a harder time under this. It's 9% of American citizens do not have the actual documentation that would be needed to vote under this act, and that is not including people whose documentation would not necessarily match. That's anyone who's had a name change, in particular married women who often take their husbands' names in this country. So thank you for that. That's another. It's a bad bill, and I don't mean to. I mean, listen, when I said I don't have any significant. I mean, I've got objections, but there's quality of objection. I mean, it's a bill designed to disenfranchise people, but in terms of what he's been doing. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to play this Johnson clip one more time for those of you just joining us. And for everyone else, please do like, subscribe, pass this along. And then 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to see, we may push it till 9. And that's just because I want to check on his Andering schedule. I'd like to have him there. You guys get to hear just me often enough. So let us once again play Speaker Johnson from earlier today. Now this is this is the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful people in the legislative branch, who, as far as I can tell, is threatening every federal judge who does not comply with the executive branch. Let's take a listen.
Let's start here with House Speaker Mike Johnson also issuing an open threat to the federal judiciary today. Johnson saying that Congress has the authority to pull funding to federal courts. The congressman also adding that he is open to the idea here of potentially impeaching judges who rule against the president, saying that, quote, everything is on the table. Well, this comes as a
absolutely staggering. The concept of checks and balances is dangling by a thread and is still under constant assault. We do have, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but just for purposes of rundown, I'll bring it up again. The Social Security Administration has requested to vacate the TRO against them that prohibits DOJ from entering. Until then, I suspect that this is weaponized compliance. They are short-staffed, thanks to DOJ firing a whole bunch of their staff and a number of resignations. But having said that, it looks like they do not have the staff to maintain the historic reliability of the Social Security Administration. I don't know that adding members of DOJ is going to help. I think they need to rehire everybody that they fired. But having said that, they are asking a judge to vacate the TRO. That will likely fail. Meanwhile, the State Secrets Act has been invoked in regards to Trump deporting a number of people to Venezuela, 260 some odd, a number of which we know now have committed no crime. That judge has demanded for 3 days that Trump explain why he violated the TRO and then violated the order to turn the plane around. They finally landed at state secrets, which the judge is going to challenge. This is going to continue for some time. Donald Trump called for the impeachment of the judge. Chief Justice John Roberts then came out and, in a way befitting a wallflower, said, well, it's really not up for anyone in the executive branch to go around threatening to impeach judges just because they don't like a decision. When Trump was asked what he thought about that comment, he said exactly what he should have said in that statement, which was, he wasn't obviously talking about me, because if he was, he'd have mentioned me by name. Kudos, John Roberts. Way to step up to the plate there when your country needs you. But then again, there's so much corruption between Alito and Thomas that if they go after Trump, they're shooting themselves in the foot. This is how republics die, when they become this corrupt that even people who want to try to stop the corruption are so corrupt that they can't do it. That's why Kim Jong-un forces his own family members to murder people. He'll take out members of his cabinet that he doesn't like, put them out in a field, tie them up, and then grab members of his family and say, shoot and kill that man. Well, now, if you go after Kim Jong-un, you're also a murderer. Perhaps an extreme example, but having said that, we live in interesting times. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to stay on this. Come hit the Discord, and to the new people who have been on the Discord and have clearly adapted to our procedures very quickly, thank you all very much. There's been some great contributions. I will shout them out at some point. Not now. I'm reaching my limit. It's been a long day. Hope everybody is doing all right, and we'll see you all soon. Have a good night.